Hello and welcome to another edition of the Plus One interview, and we got a returning guest, my guy Josue Pavon. Celtics season about to be underway. What's going on, man?
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm thrilled. It's a heck of a week to be covering the Celtics for sure, man. I'm doing good. How are you? How's everything?
Everything's good on my end, man. Everything's good on my end. What a way to kick off right before training camp start with the announcement of the trade for Jrue Holiday and a complete roster revamp this summer for the Celtics. Man, what did you make of the trade? Or the move, I should say.
This organization is all in. I mean, that's pretty much what I make of it, man, to put it bluntly. I mean, look, Brad Stevens, he's a savage, man. And I mean that in all the right ways. I mean, in terms of not afraid to get the guy that he wants, whatever it takes. It seems to be his approach from day one, right? I mean, from his very first day on the job. He brings in Al Horford, later down the road. He brings in Derek White. And I mean, this all cost him future first round picks, right? So clearly he's not afraid to put those on the table, which is something that Danny Ainge was sometimes reluctant to do, depending on who was coming in return. But for Brad Stevens, you can tell he has a criteria or he has a makeup of a particular player. And if you fit that mold, he's going to do what it takes to get his guy. And Jrue Holiday was no different, right? I mean, to get good things, you got to spend a lot, right? So it's pretty much what he said at media day, and that was Robert Williams, a guy who was in the finals 2 years ago, still young, still has a ceiling above him to reach, still has that potential. And you look at the way that things went down throughout the summer, man. This was the first time we've seen Robert this healthy, right? This is the very first time. He's always been on ice during the offseason, and I think it's positioned him to have the best season of his career. And Brad Stevens saw that in a way of collecting his guy, of getting his guy, right? Putting assets together along with Robert Williams. You don't get this deal done without Rob, right? That was the difference between every other team's offers, right? All the other teams, whether it's the Miami Heat, the LA Clippers, this preferred trade destinations list that Jrue Holiday reportedly put together. I mean, that was the difference. That was that's the biggest reason why Jrue Holiday is a member of the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, and for me it was kind of like, all right, I think it was, I mean, a lot of people probably think this. I think it was just time for a change in the roster because you can't keep coming into the season with the same type of rotation and thinking you're going to get a different result just when we've seen like what happened. You came into the season with the same type of roster for like 5 years in a row, and it's like you've gotten close but not gotten there, so it had to be time for a switch up.
Right. I mean, look at the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, yeah, they're an Eastern Conference favorite. Some people would say that not as much the Celtics after the Jrue Holiday trade, but I still say that they're pretty much neck and neck in terms of their projections to win the East. However, I mean, that was the move that they had to make, right? You look at the comments that Giannis Antetokounmpo made about re-signing with the team, saying that, look, if there's a team out there that I'm better suited in winning a championship, I'm going to play for that team, and that obviously, made the Milwaukee Bucks react fast. And you look at what the Celtics have been doing the last couple of years. I mean, every 2 years or so, you see sort of a change in whether it's the starting point guard or whether it's just the general makeup of this core. Now they're keeping their two all-stars together, right? I mean, that's the plan for the future, right? You re-sign Jaylen Brown over the summer. Tatum's going to get his, next summer. However, getting someone like Kristaps Porzingis is a clear indication of two things. One, that the Celtics are obviously all in and trying to, put together a championship team. And also, two, they're trying to get the best type of players to complement Tatum and Brown. And that's exactly what Kristaps Porzingis does. And that's exactly what you see in Jrue Holiday, which essentially, if you ask me, an upgrade from the starting point guard that they had last year in Marcus Smart.
Definitely. And then with Milwaukee making that move for Damian Lillard, and we don't see not much else movement from the top contending teams in the East. Like, how do you think this team is going to look as far as just like the identity offensively? How do you think this team, what's going to be their identity? What's going to be the strength of this team for this upcoming season?
I think it has to be the defense, Mukala, to be honest with you. I think that's where this team that has to be a strong part of their identity. I mean, clearly 3-point shooting was a big part of who they were last year. I still think that carries over into this season, especially when guys like Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, right? I mean, these guys can hit 3-pointers at a high rate when you look at, where this team was last year compared to where it's at now. They're even better in terms of having guys like that can put up points in a hurry, and especially in terms of that 3-point shot that was, a lot was made of that last year, that this team maybe took too many of those, and that they would seek those shots, and that it was sort of the offense started to be predictable, right? Which is in some regards is true, but I also think that they'll be smarter in this time going into the second season of Joe Mazzulla. He's got a new coaching staff. He's got guys that weren't there last year, veteran, established assistant coaches that, could be a head coach in the NBA sometime soon. But those are the kind of experienced assistant coaches that you want to see alongside Joe Mazzulla, helping him navigate through his second season. And, this is a completely different setup when you think about what happened last year in the condition that he became the head coach after, the Celtics suspended Ime Udoka. So, this is, obviously a completely different situation. He seems a lot more, very not as confrontational, if you will, with the media lately. The first week, it's been nothing but smiles, and I think he's very confident and very excited about the upcoming season, considering all the changes and the modifications that were made to put this team in his best position to win a championship.
Definitely, and this team, the two guys, Jalen and Jason, they're going to go as those guys go. Specifically for Jalen coming into this season, he went into the offseason. A lot of scrutiny came his way in the offseason, got criticized a lot. But he signed that big contract, but the last thing we remember from him is just him having not the best performance that he could have in a Game 7. I mean, what do you think his mindset, or what did you see, what did he say about his mindset coming to this season during media day?
Well, he talked a lot about becoming a better defender. Something that he thinks that he can do a better job in terms of being that type of defender that the Celtics can rely on, night in and night out. We've certainly seen flashes of that, and that's something that I love to hear from Jaylen Brown, because not only did he mention this, during his extension signing, but he also mentions it now during media day. So I think it's something that he really wants to put forth this upcoming season, and that would essentially mean, at least if you ask me, defending opposing teams' best players, right? That wing position, which is going to be really important for the Celtics moving forward. I think Jalen can be that guy. I think he will improve on that end, and also as a leader, holding guys accountable and making sure that everyone's on the exact same page. Jason Tatum, saying a lot of the same thing, during his availability, at media day. The time he spent with Paul Pierce, he believes is relevant in terms of how that team in 2008 was able to come together and just be a closer team than other, past Celtics teams, or the ones that came before, the years that KG had before coming to Boston, and Ray Allen had, before coming to Boston. And he thinks that's really important for this upcoming season. That's exactly what Jason Tatum wants to do and wants to implement with, especially the new guys who weren't here last year, and also in addition to the guys that were who were around last year and know how things went down. So yeah, I mean, look, Jalen being a better defender and just, harping on that, I think it's huge. You look what this team was last year. In the fourth quarter, they blew a lot of leads, very unsteady in terms of those last few minutes where teams would get on a roll and the Celtics were sort of second guessing themselves, or they would panic and start, chucking up 3-pointers. I think this team has to be one of the better, if not the best defensive team in the NBA if they plan to make it to the NBA Finals and win it all. And that has to be the strong part of their identity.
Who is, with the loss of Robert Williams, was it Luke Cornett? Is it Luke Cornett?
I mean, he's part of it. You want to see what the other guys have as well. I mean, the new guys, guys are trying to prove themselves, but he's part of the puzzle for sure. I mean, this second unit, it'll be interesting to see how they address that center position, because it gets very thin after the starters.
Yeah, and what do you think is the ceiling for this team? How far do you think they can go? If there's no injuries, if they stay relatively healthy, especially during the latter part of the season, going into the postseason. If they're healthy in the postseason, how do you think this team? How far do you think this team can go?
I think they can win it all. I really do. I think this is the team where you. This is the first time where you have that genuine feel a championship makeup, the roster at least, right? I mean, you see what these guys can do. Again, Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, the way they can complement Tatum and Brown, but it really does come down to those two, right? And they've improved year after year. I think you could say the same thing about both of these guys, and I don't think this year will be any different. Especially someone like Jason Tatum, if he's in the MVP conversation, which I think he will be. I do predict that this season will be that year. Then it's really going to boil down to which teams can stop them at the end, right? The Denver Nuggets are still in the conversation for sure. We have to see what the Milwaukee Bucks look like. You look across the Eastern Conference. Can the Miami Heat muster up another run? We'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of question marks, and I think that works in the Celtics' favor when you think about the what's led them up to this point and the changes that they've made in terms of trying to complement Tatum and Brown. I mean, this is it doesn't get any better than this, right? I don't think you can ask for better talent when you think about the things that's plagued this team year after year. Whether it's late game execution, whether it's not an inside presence, not enough of an inside presence on the offensive end of the floor. I think Kristaps Porzingis is a solution for that. I also think that Jrue Holiday is someone that can sort of calm things down on the offense as a facilitator. He averaged over 7 assists last season. The Celtics haven't had a playmaker like that since Rajon Rondo. So I think all of that is relative when you think about adding guys who have been around the league long enough to know what it takes, or at least to be eager for this opportunity. And I think both of those guys fit the bill. Whether you're talking about someone like Jrue Holiday, who was a champion in 2021 with the Milwaukee Bucks, or someone like Kristaps Porzingis, who's sort of been that fringe all-star, just waiting to prove himself that he could be a perennial all-star one day. And I think this is that opportunity. He's coming off one of his better seasons with the Washington Wizards, and though he's never been in this type of winning situation, I think this is ideal for him to thrive in when you're asking him to be your third or fourth best player on the team.
Definitely. And lastly, I keep seeing this on Twitter, on the social medias. Why do people think that the Celtics won't have an answer for Giannis or Joel Embiid when they've knocked them both out of the playoffs in like 2 of the last 3 years out of it?
I don't know, man. I don't get it. It's either that or the illusional Heat fans that are talking about, man, Jimmy Butler looked great against Jrue Holiday. I'm not worried about the Celtics, potential matchup. I'm like, man, I don't think the Celtics are thinking about you guys, man. Like, they're thinking about the Bucks. They're thinking about who's going to guard Damian Lillard, and I think they feel great about putting Al Horford, in the mix against Giannis and against Joel Embiid, with, of course, help from other guys, whether that's Jason Tatum or, Kristaps Porzingis. That wing, guys from the wing are going to have to obviously help out as well alongside Porzingis and Al Horford. But it's funny how soon they forget Mukala, right? I mean, they forget what happened, against the Celtics against the Bucks in 2022. But I guess Al's going to have to go out there and remind them.
Knock the Sixers out this year in 7 games?
In the Sixers, right? Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, you mentioned the Sixers, too. Sixers fans are mouthing off. And I'm like, man, you guys have a whole James Harden problem right now. I figured they would wait until that's resolved before they start yapping. Whether he takes his trade demand back, or whether they find out what's going to happen with him in terms of what kind of pieces they get back. Wait till that resolves, and then you'll hear them even more so, right? They'll start talking even more so, talking about, oh, man, well, we got this, that, and the other. Or they'll say, Harden is back, everything is good, look out, Boston. I mean, well, look, this is why I love the NBA, man. You can't make this stuff up. These plot twists. Every single season there's one, and it's always something that no one saw coming. I mean, between Damian Lillard and Jrue Holiday being traded a second time to Boston, I mean, that's something being rerouted to the team that's going to be your biggest threat to get back to the NBA Finals. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
And also, the MVP of the league scored was disappeared for Game 6 and 7. Like, we still forgetting all that. Anyway.
Wow. How soon they forget, man.
How soon
that was a crazy series, too.
Oh, my gosh. He got to get some practice, so we got to let him go, but let them know where they can find your writing, the podcast, all that good stuff. I know you guys are back with more content now that the season is pretty much here. Let them know where they can find everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. We got the Garden Reports on YouTube, CLNS Media. We also have the Celtics postgame show, which we do at the end of every single game throughout the season, playoffs, etc. and the Cedric Maxwell podcast. My co-host Cedric Maxwell, Celtics legend Max. Man, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up, man. Especially in terms of guests and plenty of content with the season kicking off. So subscribe. Hit us up on iTunes or wherever you get your iPods. I mean your iPods. Man, I'm sounding old school right now. iTunes and iPods. Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast, man, we're there. Check us out, iHeartMedia, all that good stuff.
All right, my guy. Always great talking to you, man. Good luck covering the team this season, man. I'll see you soon.
Absolutely, Mukala, man. We'll do this again soon for sure.
All right, have a good one. That was Josue Pavon. You guys been watching Plus One Interview. We'll check you guys another time.